Hey, what's up, guys? Alan here. Welcome to another episode of Thoughts on This, where I speak on my thoughts. And today I'll be giving my thoughts on the Inside Out franchise. First, I'll be giving my thoughts on the 2015 film Inside Out and its sequel that released 9 years later, Inside Out 2, which I gave my pre-thoughts on before, and now I'll be giving my full thoughts on it. So as you guys may know, the first Inside Out centers around Riley going through a major change in her life, moving to a new city, while the five emotions, joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust, help guide her. The sequel takes place 1 year later with the character now a teenager dealing with even more changes as she transitions to high school and experiences new emotions, envy, embarrassment, ennui, and anxiety. The first film was directed by Pixar CEO Pete Docter, while Kelsey Mann directed the sequel. Amy Poehler, Phyllis Smith, and Lewis Black voiced joy, sadness, and anger respectively in both films, while Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling voiced fear and disgust in the first film and were then replaced by Tony Hale and Liza Lapira for the second film. They were also joined by Maya Hawke, Io Debris, Paul Walter Hauser, and Adela Sarkopoulos as the new emotions. Both films have garnered critical acclaim, with the first one taking home the Oscar for Best Animated Feature and the second one breaking multiple box office records by surpassing Frozen 2 to become the highest grossing animated film of all time, until it was surpassed by Niza 2, the sequel to the 2019 Chinese animated feature. Regardless, both were well received by critics and audiences alike. Now the question is, what do I think about these films? So starting things off with the 2015 film, this is one of my favorite Pixar films of all time, and probably one of the best ones to come out of the 2010s. Like, all the qualities of this film is pretty much how you can describe any other Pixar film from the golden age. Fun, entertaining, and of course, emotional. And what makes this film stand out is that it's two storylines into one, where it's about Riley going through this big change in her life, moving from one city to another at just 11 years old. And it's also about joy and sadness trying to make their way back to headquarters after getting lost deep into Riley's mind. And those two stories intersected so well with each other that it tied together the themes and message of utilizing every emotion. It's that every emotion matters and it's important to use all of them. The animation was literally an explosion of color and creativity. The inside of Riley's mind was almost like if abstract art came to life, from the look of headquarters and the abstract thought sequence. But the creativity really comes into play in the character design, with each emotion having a very distinct look that matches their personality. It also shows in the imagination land and dream production scenes, which I really thought that it was smart to have Riley's dreams come from a literal film production. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the film. The roles for the five emotions were very well casted, and for a pretty star-studded ensemble, they all brought a wide range of personalities to the characters like pro voice actors. Poehler was as joyful and vulnerable as the positive emotion, and her scenes with Smith, who she voiced sadness to perfection, showed that they had great chemistry. Hader, Black, and Kaling might have been side characters throughout most of the film, but their voice performance still left a lasting impression. Caitlin Diaz didn't deliver as much range as the core cast, but she was the most authentic as just your average, relatable person who is just going through real-life problems. The emotional weight of the film is what made this film an instant classic in the modern era of Pixar, which is fitting since the whole aesthetic of the film is all about feeling your emotions. The scene where Joy gives sadness to core memories and finally letting Riley feel sad made me cry when I watched the film for the first time. It was one of the most heartwarming and tear-jerking scenes in the film. Overall, this film not only set the bar of what a Pixar film should be, but it also exceeded my expectation. This film had it all: silly, eye-popping, and just pure of heart. It is the type of film that is enjoyable for viewers beyond the intended target audience. Now moving on to the sequel that released just last summer. When I first heard about the film being made, I was excited, so of course I had to see it, and it was phenomenal. I loved it. I just wanted to watch it again and again. It was that good. And out of all the Pixar sequels that have been made, this is by far the best one. And the one that makes the most sense, since it took the original concept from the first film and expanded it into different stages of life. And even though the film doesn't have the same emotional tone from the first film necessarily, like it was still moving and inspiring and kind of makes it better than the first film, even though I love both films equally. The story was essentially the same as the plot of the first film, except in the situation that Riley is transitioning into a different stage in her life and is trying to fit in with the popular group while processing new emotions. When I first saw the trailer, I thought Riley was going to be placed in the trope of getting stuck with the wrong crowd and the girls that she hangs out with don't value her as much, but really, they were actually very nice, and the popular girl was actually a bit understanding of Riley's struggles and that she was under a little stress. And I'm glad they didn't go with that mean girl stereotype because I feel like it would have been too cliche and the film would have been boring. And I like that Riley has more of a story arc in this film. She had an arc in the first film, but there wasn't really that much substance to it. I also like that we got more of anger, fear, and disgust. I think they deserved their shining moment after being like sidelined throughout like the main story of the first film. While sadness is less present during the emotions adventures, she still managed to play an integral role, and she is still one of the best characters in the film. And I really like what they did with Anxiety. Her arc is like Joy's, where Anxiety realizes she shouldn't push the simple emotions off to the side, and they both realize that they can't control how Riley presents herself. It's a great message to show that our emotions don't define who we are, and that they can guide us through our personal development. Despite a slightly larger cast, each one had at least one shining moment throughout the film, and they all put on very exceptional voice performances. Amy Poehler once again owned the film as Joy, adding more layers and vulnerability while still maintaining the peppy spirit of the character. Smith and Black were just as charismatic in this film, with Black adding a new side to anger that we'd never seen before in the first film. Hale's take on fear wasn't too special, but it was good enough to match up the haters' version. Lapira, on the other hand, did a great job voicing disgust. As much as I miss Kaling, Lapira did a much better job in bringing the character to life. She added a lot more charisma and range to the character, where she felt more sassy and a lot more animated. The representation of Anxiety as a character and a topic was captured perfectly in this film. Maya Hawke did a fantastic job at bringing the character's quirky, energetic personality to life. Her voice fitted so well with the character's mannerism and expressions. Plus, it was a great visualization of how anxiety can take over our daily lives and how much impact it can cause. The sequence where Riley is having an anxiety attack was a great depiction of someone experiencing anxiety, and it was edited so beautifully with the sequence in headquarters where the emotions are trying to remove the new sense of self created by anxiety. And as for the new emotions, they didn't have a lot of impact in the story or the character arc, but their presence did make the film more fun. Envy was just adorable, and I wish she had more shining moments, but her scenes with the other emotions was definitely a treat to watch, and you can tell that Adebri had a lot of fun with this character. Embarrassment and Ennui, on the other hand, did had a lot more shining moments in the film. They did added more of the comedic moments, whether it's their one-liners or just certain actions, they did make me laugh. Out of the new minor characters, my favorite would have to be Bluefy. I like that he's a walking reference to those interactive children's shows. And not only that, they also managed to reference two of my childhood shows, Dora and Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Lance Lashblade is another standout character for me. Like the reference to those fantasy role-playing games like Fire Emblem and Final Fantasy, I thought the whole gimmick was hilarious and I really enjoyed his scenes with Discuss. Although the animation is pretty much the same throughout the film, there were some significant improvements from the first film. Like the five emotions definitely have a lot more contrast and the movement felt a lot more smoother. However, there were some new styles that were incorporated into the film, like the 2D cartoon style for Bluefy and Pouchy, and the very authentic video game style for Lance, which it looks like a step out from a video game. Even for Bluefy and Pouchy as well, like if their TV show actually existed, it looks like they would look and move exactly like how they do in the film. And kind of going off of what I said a little bit earlier, this film takes the first film's message of embracing your emotions and elevates it further by teaching viewers that your negative thoughts shouldn't be pushed off to the side, but embrace them as tools to become better. It also teaches viewers that your emotions don't have control of who you get to be, but they can guide you through it. And yes, I did just repeat myself there. Anyways, this is one of those films that is mainly targeted towards kids, but it's enjoyable for people of all ages, and anyone can resonate with this film, whether they're a teen now or they're looking back to their teen years. Its themes and messages will connect with people universally, and just the overall aesthetic of the film is fun for the whole family to enjoy. Alright, that sums up all of my final thoughts on both of these films, and honestly, if I had to pick which one is better, I like both, but I kinda had to go with the second one, mostly because it's more relatable to me, and I feel like it's more universal to people of all ages. But that's my opinion, and if you guys agree or disagree, let me know down in the comments, and if you haven't already subscribed, that would really mean a lot. That's all I have to say, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!